Now, the rest of the story. Sam Phillips was president of the Sun Record Company, a label specializing in country music. The recording business was like horse racing, Sam used to say, just a matter of picking the winners. Well, one day, such walked into his office. A likable young man who had spent his early years on a farm, good-natured, uncomplicated country boy who had once won a hometown talent contest, singing and playing his guitar. But Sam Phillips sensed something extraordinary, something that set this scruffy boy apart from the would-be stars on their way to nowhere. Anyway, Sam recorded him, and DJs in Memphis went crazy. So Sam, satisfied that he had done it once again, picked a winner and signed the new singer in a long-term contract with Sun Records. Now, even the most talented new talent needs a boost on the way up, some kind of nudge to keep the ball rolling. Nobody understood that better than Sam Phillips. Someday, soon, this new young singer of his was going to cut a huge hit record, and that would make them both rich. But in the meantime, promotion money was needed. So in the autumn of that same year, 1955, Sam unloaded some slow property, another singer whose record sales had dropped dramatically, and with the cash he gained in that deal, Sam prepared for his new singer's brilliant future, and here we go. Early the following winter, Sam's intuition was proved correct. The gifted farm boy, who had come into his office hat in hand only a little more than a year before, recorded the hit of a lifetime, a single which has never before nor since topped the pop and the rhythm and blues and the country charts simultaneously, a song called Blue Suede Shoes. It met a gold record, of course, an instant nationwide fame for the young singer. You'll always be able to testify that Sam Phillips had seen it coming. What he could not have foreseen was the automobile accident the following March, the calamity that put his new star in the hospital for almost a year. You see, that young fellow, the young entertainer in whom Sam Phillips had had so much faith, he was Carl Perkins. Carl Perkins was the country boy who first recorded Blue Suede Shoes. I said Carl Perkins was the country boy who first recorded Blue Suede Shoes. Now, you may never have heard of him, but I assure you that his influence was echoed down through the corridors of popular music in general ever since. Carl was one of the godfathers of rockabilly. For example, even Beatle George Harrison was profoundly influenced by Carl's guitar playing. Of course you remember the other singer, right? The young fellow whose record sales were sagging and whose contract Sam Phillips sold to RCA. And Sam did take the money to promote Carl Perkins, but he could never have imagined that while Carl was in the hospital, the other boy would make his own recording of Blue Suede Shoes. Oh, yes, he did. And that other young singer-guitar player whom Sam Phillips unloaded for $35,000? That's right. He was Elvis Presley. Only now you know the rest of the story.
And now, the rest of the story. You know, today, people all around the world know and recognize Elvis Presley, even though he died almost half a century ago. He was a phenomenon. Now, Carl Perkins never reached the heights that Elvis reached. To be fair, well, maybe a few have come close, but no one has been able to match Elvis. Many people these days wouldn't even recognize the name Carl Perkins. But Carl Lee Perkins was born on April 9, 1932 in Tiptonville, Tennessee. From the age of 6, Carl began working in the cotton fields with his family. School was not a necessity. Cotton came before anything else. Without it, they would not have survived. Like most poor farmers, Carl looked forward to Saturday night because the family would gather around the radio and listen to the Grand Ole Opry. Hearing Roy Acuff on the Opry inspired Carl to want to play and sing. Now, Carl wanted a guitar, but the family had no disposable income. Carl explained, Before I went to school, I started fooling around on a guitar. My daddy made me one with a cigar box, a broomstick, and 2 strands of baling wire, and I'd sit and beat on that thing. Eventually, his father got him a used Gene Autry Melody Ranch guitar. At 14, Carl wrote a country song called "Let Me Take You to the Movie, Mag." A few years later, Carl used this song to convince Sam Phillips to give him a shot. Sam released Movie Mag, not on Sun Records, but its subsidiary called Flip Records. Sam used Flip Records to release songs that didn't really fit with what he wanted for Sun Records. Movie Mag became a regional hit, and Carl toured with Johnny Cash and Elvis. Carl's second record, Gone, 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 was also a regional hit. On December 19, 1955, Carl recorded what became one of the most iconic records in the history of American popular music, Blue Suede Shoes. According to an interview with Carl filmed in the 1970s, he got the idea for the song when he was performing and saw a boy and girl dancing right in front of the bandstand. Carl explained, "She stepped on his shoes and he said, 'Hey, don't step on my suedes.' And he was serious." Carl turned that simple expression into a song. The song was released on January the 1st, 1956 and soared up the charts. As Mr. Harvey explained, Carl's version was the first record to top the pop, country, and R&B charts simultaneously. One record distributor in Cleveland, Ohio ordered 25,000 copies of the record. Record stores in Dallas reported selling 20,000 copies of the song a day. Carl and his band performed the song live on radio and television. And on March 17, 1956, something strange happened. Carl performed Blue Suede Shoes on ABC TV's Ozark Jamboree. On the same day, Elvis performed Blue Suede Shoes on CBS's Stage Show. At first glance, it would appear that Elvis was trying to take some attention from Carl, but it was exactly the opposite. It was a winning situation for everyone. It got Elvis exposure with a popular song, and Carl and Sam Phillips earned a lot of money in royalties. On January 30th, 1956, just 29 days after Carl's version was released, Elvis recorded his version of Blue Suede Shoes for his upcoming debut album called Elvis Presley. On the night of March 21st, following a show in Norfolk, Virginia, Carl and his band headed to New York where they were scheduled to perform on Perry Como's TV show. Sam Phillips was waiting on Carl in New York. Blue Suede Shoes had sold more than 500,000 copies, and Sam was going to present Carl with a gold record on the Perry Como show. But the band didn't make it to the Perry Como show. Stuart Pinkham, the band's manager, drove the band through the night so they could meet Sam Phillips at 6 a.m. in New York. Carl and the band slept on the way. Just before daybreak on March 22nd, about 5 miles south of Dover, Delaware, Stuart drifted off to sleep behind the wheel. The car struck the back left fender of a pickup truck driven by 44-year-old Thomas Phillips. Both vehicles lost control, crashed through a guardrail, and rolled down an 8-foot embankment. Thomas Phillips, the driver of the truck, was killed in the crash. Carl's older brother Jay, the band's guitarist, had been thrown from the car and suffered a fractured spine and internal injuries. Carl's younger brother Clayton, that's Carl's bass player, received minor injuries and was released the following afternoon. Carl's drummer, W.S. Holland, and the band's manager Stuart Pinkham received minor injuries and were also released from the hospital the following afternoon. Carl's injuries included a deep gash on his scalp, 3 broken vertebrae in his neck, a severe concussion, and a broken collarbone. Carl spent months recovering in the hospital. His older brother Jay developed a brain tumor and died the following year. Carl recalled the car crash as the saddest, most disappointing thing in his life. Before the crash, Carl was destined to become one of the biggest stars in the world, maybe the biggest. Some people have said that he could have been bigger than Elvis. His band was scheduled to perform on Perry Como's show a couple days before the crash, and they were also supposed to perform on the Ed Sullivan Show a week after the crash. The car crash hurt Carl's family, but it hurt Carl physically, and his career never recovered. Carl said later, "This was tragedy after success. For a good while, it just really took the good feeling out of the fame the record had." Elvis's debut album was released on March 23, 1956, the day after Carl's car accident. The album went to number 1. On August 31st, 1956, RCA released Elvis's single version of Blue Suede Shoes. Whereas Carl's version went to number 1, Elvis's version stalled at number 20. Which version of Blue Suede Shoes do you remember? I'm Brad Dison. Thanks for watching, and now you know the rest of the story.